myself again, but it's the only way.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the 5-minute rant, the fans forum, whatever we decide to call it. I think every time we call it the 5-minute rant, things go well, then we'll call it the fans forum, and then there's things to complain about. But it is your usual Monday night where you get the chance to come on and be the star of the show. And as you will gather, it's not Pete and Chris. Pete has been surprised by Mrs. Davy and is out on a Valentine's meal. I have done my duties this afternoon. And Holly has stepped in for Chris, who is still not too good. He had a bout of COVID, I think most people know, and he's still not too well. He's hoping to be back next week, but we wish him well and hope he gets back on his feet soon. He said he would try to be in the chat. Now, as you all know, it is your turn to come on the screen tonight. So the link, if you want to join us, is posted in the chat. You can see it there. It's pinned at the top. Just simply click on that, follow the instructions, and you can join us on screen, and we can chat about Newcastle. It's a slightly shorter show. We usually have Monday nights off anyway, so it'll be a slightly shorter show, but it gives us a chance to have a natter with you. If you want to come on screen with us, do that. Before we do that, let's just talk briefly about Joe Willock, Holly, because I disagreed with you last night. You didn't think he had a good game, and this is what I'm what I'm going to say. When someone thinks they don't have a good game and they've only had one chance to watch him, i.e., live in the flesh watching the match, you're only going to get a one-dimensional view of it. You weren't sitting watching Joe Willock all game. Now, I made it quite clear on the show last night that I was, and I personally had him up there as one of my men of the match yesterday. So it just shows sometimes if you watch a player, you can say, well, I thought he had a really good game. You didn't think he had a good game. The stats backed up my argument. And then we have an avalanche of abuse on Twitter, which is no great surprise. We're used to it. We don't respond to it. We just block these people and we just move on. What have you made of all of that? Have you had a chance to reassess? Do you stay with the same opinion that Joe Willock didn't have a particularly good game? Now you've seen the stats and maybe he's had a chance to rewatch it. And what's your view on all the rubbish that's been on Twitter today?
Look, I think exactly what you said is right. Obviously, we did the podcast on the same day as the match, which isn't the normal thing that we do because we're usually not playing on a Sunday. So I hadn't really read into the stats, hadn't rewatched any of Joe Willock's game or anything like that. That was just my initial impression. Did get it totally off with his passing accuracy. Look, everyone can make mistakes. Everyone can get things wrong, say wrong things. I'll hold my hands up. I'm not embarrassed. At the end of the day, it's an opinion on a player. It's not the end of the world. And Joe Willock had 100% pass completion, which is, it's great. Fair play to him. And for me, has my opinion totally changed? It has changed to an extent, yeah. I have watched some of it back, and I think that he did do okay, but I think he has been maybe bigged up a little bit more than I thought he did play. I think in the first half, he was much poorer than he was in the second half. I thought he improved a lot in the second half. But yeah, look, he did okay, and I hope he does continue to do well because ultimately we want to see the players doing well. We want to see the side doing well. That's the most important thing, and we won, so who cares regardless. But yeah, don't take my opinion for gospel because it just is my opinion. Don't speak for the fans. I speak for myself. That's it. Regards to Twitter, yeah, Twitter's an interesting place at the best of times. I think, like I said on Twitter, it's not uncommon for us to be the centre of controversy on there. I don't think we often find ourselves in this position, which make of that what you will. But yeah, people, I think it's just any excuse to have a pop, in my opinion. Look, it was opinion on a Newcastle player. It's not as if I've said something crazy about world politics or whatever. And I'm assuming these people will be watching tonight as well. I saw a few people going, oh, I can't stand those two, but watch the whole hour of the podcast. Hi. Yeah, so if you are watching tonight, hi, thanks for giving us the views.
And then why are you sitting watching me and Holly when you don't like us, when you should be out on Valentine's night? That's the big question. Anyway, I have, as I've already said, done my duties today, and we can move on to the most important people tonight, which isn't me and Holly, but it is the callers. And pleased to say we've got Jeff in first. I've got Alan lined up next.
Good grief.
Jeff, how are you?
I'm very well. Good to see you, boss.
Well, it's great to see you, mate. And honestly, I do sit I do sit and I don't often comment on this show because I don't like to put pressure on the lads. I enjoy watching this show and I enjoy hearing what people's got to say. And sometimes it leads into what's going to happen for the rest of the week, because I can change my opinion. Like Holly said about the whole Willock situation, I can change my opinion as well. And I always feel it's nice to get a good groundswell of opinion. And listening to the likes of you and Alan and regulars who come on, it's always good to get a good idea of what other people are thinking. Some people watch the game live like we do. Other people are, watching on the TV. Sometimes you get a completely different idea of what a game's about. But Jeff, this is your platform tonight, mate. Tell us what you've got to say tonight. What are you going to share with us? What words of wisdom?
Let's start with that one. If you listen on the radio, as soon as one of their players gets the ball, goes across the halfway line, it sounds like, they're coming. It's the end of the world. And you look back on the telly, it's nothing, right? It's just a dramatic tension in the radio commentary. Watching live in the ground, that must be very different because you've got all sorts of things to worry about. You've got some bloke behind you saying stupid things all the time, and you've been, whatever's going on. And you're worried about your tea when you get home and all sorts of other issues. And you're only not necessarily watching the game. You're also absorbing all that tension. Ooh, what was it like? That's the first question. What was that, whatever it was, 40 minutes like when you thought, we've got to hang on here? How did you feel?
From my perspective, I'll tell you, I bit a lot of my beard off yesterday, Jeff. I was literally beard nibbling. Now, I know you can appreciate this. Holly can't. But I chew my beard when I'm stressed. And I was stressed yesterday. I wasn't enjoying that one little bit.
Really?
And, of course, the start of the second half, when Aston Villa came out, Gerrard had thrown a few teacups around. I generally thought they were going to equalise. And it looked as if they were going to. And then, of course, they score. Ollie Watkins scores. And I'm sitting talking to my mate who I sit next to, and my dad and his mate, and just going, I knew it. But then VAR, which is so, I've got to say, it's one thing they need to improve at St James's Park. So slow and so almost badly organised that it takes an eternity. Now, I know they're not in control of it, but they are in control of the screen. They are in control of the tannoy, and they surely must have known that this was going to go to VAR before they put it up on the screen and that. So it seemed longer than it probably was, but it was just an eternity. Of course, it gets chalked off, and then the rest of the game, we're literally sitting on your hands. But I was nervous. Holly, what about you?
Yeah, I was as well. I think it was a very nervy game, to be honest. I thought that both sides pretty much matched each other. Aston Villa cancelled us out a lot of the time, I thought. And you were worrying. I think when we conceded that goal, I was worrying VAR wasn't going to go in our favour. We don't always have the best of luck. When it got chalked off, I was still a bit panicking. I was thinking, I hope that hasn't given them the confidence to then go on and try and score again. But thankfully, we managed to hold on. It was a nervy game, got there in the end, and a brilliant free kick from Kieran Trippier.
Well, I'll tell you what was strange. Sat at home watching it, I thought it was never in doubt because we were right in their heads from the beginning, right? Tactically, we messed them up, no end. But I'll tell you what, I'd like to go back a bit further and look what we did to our good friends at Everton. I was very disappointed. I really must admit that with, what's that lad called? Ex-Chelsea player? Frank Lampard, that's it. Big Frank, I'm going to call him for now. Big Frank Lampard. Right, tactically, what we're going to do. If they go past you, kick them. Just kick anyone that moves, right? And you can mistime a tackle. You can do a clumsy tackle. You can do a professional foul. And you can do a perfectly timed tackle, all of which can break your leg, right? And we all know what happens to people like Ben Arthur. We can still probably see the place on the pitch where that happened, right? And I was so disappointed. And he goes in at half-time. They come out and do the same thing. Right? Bit daft, in my opinion. And what was that marking in the box? I mean, was that zonal or anal? They're all like lined up. There was a 5 and a 3 and a 2, like little chessmen, right? Very strange. That was rubbish. And the whole attacking thing, that was a shambles. But we got in their heads. And well done, the crowd, who got in Pickford's head right from the beginning. They had Pickford all the way through. And well done, the crowd. Is the guy from yesterday okay, by the way? The people in the crowd, who had an accident?
We don't know, to be honest. I mean, there was 2 people in the crowd collapsed. That was horrific to see. Not only there was one in the Gallagher who, I did see, from where I sit, I could see him being stretchered out, and he was very much conscious and alive. Holly saw the guy in the east stand and said, yes, although there was a little bit of a delay, with getting that person back around, they were fine as well. They walked out. So both seem to be okay. No update in the press up here or anything today. Right. So, but yeah, fingers crossed they're both okay.
I thought of something to say for that. If they're both okay, I'll say it was well done them going down off the ball, because everything contrived against them yesterday.
Yeah, because that VAR went on for ages. It certainly helped us, didn't it?
Yeah. The VAR went on for ages. When they had their momentum, we had people being injured, people being carried off, people lying on their backs. And I wrote down the times, and some of this stuff went on for 8-9 minutes when they really didn't have anything to do, and they lost all their momentum. Anyway, so it's the Gerrard debate, really, isn't it? Lampard or Gerrard, which of the two? Well, Gerrard's had a long time to sort his stuff out, well, longer than Frank's had, and he persistently attacked down the right. Did you see that? They were coming down the right against Trippier. Yeah. And towards the end of the game, Manquillo's limping around like someone shot him, right? And they're still attacking down that side. And I thought, what is wrong with these people? They've just not got it, right? Their game plan. And we messed them up so much by marking, right? Three marking them across their front of the box where they're trying to take a goal kick. I mean, it was all just designed to sort of, and the goal kicks were going out, and we were pressing them in their box when they're taking the kick. Have you ever seen that before? Normally, it's Iggy runs up, that Almiron or somebody runs up. And once you see a team start pointing at each other, you're in there. You're in there. Once they're pointing at each other and saying, you, we had them. So I wasn't that impressed with Gerrard's attempt, and I was never worried. Weirdly, I wasn't worried. And I think the release of tension of coming out of the game, everyone's going, what have we got to worry about now? What can we have a go at? Yes, because everyone was sort of, oh God, the striker situation. Oh God, this. Oh, no, hang on, we just won. But it's post Sports Direct syndrome, really, isn't it? We're so used to coming out, taking the negatives out of a game, and even the negatives out of a positive. He's played well. Oh, he'll be sold next year. It's very hard to sort of come out there and go, oh, that was absolutely amazing. And I was watching, and everything is getting better. Even the throw-ins. I mean,
no, you're right, Jeff. You are right, 100%. I mean, look, you watch a game. I've now taken, because it's a lot less painful to watching the game when I get back in the house. Obviously, the timing of our show last night, I didn't get the opportunity to do that until after we'd done the show. However, my mindset was Big Dan Burn was the main man. Followed by Willock, and there was a couple of other notable mentions from me. Fraser, I thought was again relentless. Shelby played well. ASM, although frustrating, still running around a lot, and obviously we always have the big Chris Wood debate as well, because Chris Wood he's not a star striker. He's not an Alan Shearer. He's not a Loic Remy. He's not going to get you 20 goals a season, but his work rate yesterday, and the fact that he won 13 out of 15 aerial duels was a big contribution. And I still feel that he will get better. But when you watch it on the TV, you're also at the behest of the director of those Sky cameras or BT Sports cameras, and they decide, which part of play you're watching or what you're watching. And although you do have the advantage of a replay, it is a completely different way of watching the game. And, the crowd sounds different. I could tell you parts of that game yesterday where the crowd were dead because we were nervous. Collectively, we were nervous. That 15 minutes after half time was a very, very nervous period. And we were almost inviting them on. And that was something which I found rather strange, mate. I found it rather strange. And but yeah, when you watch it on TV, it is a different thing. I mean, Holly, we spent lockdown doing these shows, doing match day lives, didn't we? Watching the game on TV. And I mean, again, it is a different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm not a fan of watching the match on the telly ever. I think it is good to watch, obviously, the replays and the highlights and all that stuff. But actually watching the game live, I think you get to see so much more. But yeah, you are right. And as well, it's not just actually what the cameras are choosing to show. I think the punditry and the commentary has a big impact on how you
Yes, I've
perceive
got
the
some
game.
notes.
Yeah, if you've got pundits that are saying Newcastle or who are the favouring the other team or whatever, then that can change how you view the game as well.
Well, they're in our heads all the time. I mean, I wrote down not distinguished, not sparkling football, blah, 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 etc. They forget we're playing a team that's above us. They've got, they're quite a bit long way ahead of us. They've spent more money than we have. And the manager's got, it's reasonably settled. And we sorted them, right? I mean, I can't think we've got anything to play about because a few weeks ago, the thought of playing Aston Villa would have been more of an issue. But no, I think I'm really impressed.
The Lampard-Gerrard debate's interesting, though. Gerrard for me is the better manager of the two.
Yeah.
I personally feel anyway. But I quite like them. I had this discussion in the pub yesterday before the game. I'm delighted to see now we've entered that new generation of managers. You've got Howe, you've got Lampard, you've got Gerrard. Because it seemed about 10 years ago we were never going to get to this stage because it was Pardew. It was Tony Poulis. It was Sam Allardyce. Nice. It was Alan Kirbishley. It was a merry-go-round of the same olds. And Bruce. I've just, but you know what I mean? It's those names and a merry-go-round of names. And of course, Arsenal and Manchester United were the only ones who had the same, and they had the same manager for 20 plus years almost.
And it works. And Alex works. I really hope they keep Eddie forever.
At the moment, he's the right fit at the right time. I put that on Twitter today. Yeah,
and I can't see far enough ahead because I'm not that clever to know what it's going to be in 3 years' time. Because I'm very impressed at the moment.
I think he'd still be here. I think if we went down, if you went down, he would be here to get us promotion. And I think if we stay up, I think he'll get the opportunity to build on this. And what I've seen so far, it's only a short space of time, but I like what I see. What's your thoughts on the Trippier injury, Jeff?
It's not good, obviously, but we've got alternatives now. I like Kraft. He's got a very good long throw, which is very handy. It's another tool in the box. Something else we can do. I wanted to make a point about the captain not being there, and everyone's saying Trippier should be captain. And I'll tell you, the one person who's really impressed me, who's got with the program, is Joe Linton. Right? He has really got with. He was the first person you get. Oh, he's got it, and his play in midfield is fantastic. I'd almost say I would almost make him captain, but that's probably a little controversial. As for we're going to have to do without him, but other people will step up to the mark. Willock will start storing goals. Honestly, Ori, he'd be very good.
I think he will. He will. He just needs to add that to his. He just needs to add that to his game again. He's a clever player, and I think he's a competence. He's a competence player, Jeff. And I tell you what, the biggest competence boost Eddie Howe could have given him was when he signed Bruno to say, "Get yourself in, son. You're still playing." And that would have given him. He would have felt like a giant because he would have felt when Bruno signed, "That's me done." Yeah. But you know what? Clever management by Howe, and I don't think that was an accident at all.
No. I think the whole thing, keeping Bruno in, bring him on slowly, perfectly good thing. It's worked so far. And he's going to terrorize some people when he does appear. So again, that's something else. People don't know what we're going to do to them when he appears. That's going to be another unknown tactical advantage we have. I'm generally everybody is sort of improving their game incrementally. It's so much easier to score if you're going in that direction, if you know what I mean. If you're standing there waiting, right? So it's all about timing the run and getting the ball across, right? And we know Maximum's got problems with it. And Fraser, every so often, he was just getting up there and banging it straight in, right? Which gives you a chance if you're running. But if you have to stand there in the box, being able to get sufficient momentum, no. But Alistair Maximum will improve, right? Because for me, his passing's not good enough, right? Basically, he's got in a position, but his ball's just not perfect. He's not far enough ahead of somebody, or it's too close to their feet. Whatever it is, when he gets that bit right, he'll start to make more dangerous combinations. And we are getting stuff from his breakdowns. And as for kicking him, it's fairly obviously how you defend against him. I mean, you know what he's going to do. We know what he's going to do. He's going to turn. And as long as you stay between him and the goal, you've got a reasonable chance of stopping him. You don't have to kick the guy down. That's really, I'm very disappointed in seeing that. When the opposition, the only thing they can do is kick somebody. They've not done their homework. That's not how you defend. I mean, professional fouls, all right. Every so often you've got to do one. But as a strategy, no, Big Frank, Don't want him. Not welcome
No.
here.
No, I think you're right. Look, it tells you that Howe's done a great job when that's all they can come up with is kick Newcastle to try and unsettle them. And look, we've
I
managed.
can't see him doing that.
Yeah, we've managed to get 9 points, which is beyond belief, really. And we're now we're literally in control of our own destiny again, which was not the case a few weeks ago, which is fantastic. And a couple of hard away games coming up now, West Ham and Brentford. Before we move on to Alan, Jeff, what do you see in these next couple of fixtures? Can you see us getting anything at West Ham and Brentford?
Well, if we can surprise them, why not? That's the thing. They don't know what we're going to do. West Ham have really improved a lot. I've always quite liked the way West Ham play because they've always been able to do sophisticated stuff like different formations in attack and defense. They're much more fluid in the old days. And I think we might surprise them. We're getting tough to beat. And if we in their faces enough, I don't like too much sort of because you wind the referee up. But Trippier's used to have it about right, just enough to wind them up. But you don't want the referee on the wrong side. So he's going to be a miss on the pitch, but he's going to be. I think he'll be influential in the dressing room. I think they will have him in the dressing room doing his bit. It looks like a nice atmosphere in that dressing room now. I was watching them coming off. Adam had filmed them coming out of the dressing room, back to their cars or whatever. And they were all very nice and everyone was very respectful. Had a nice atmosphere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. His work rate is unmatched, young Adam Pearson, and I do enjoy the footage that I do like the footage the kid provides. He's a good kid. Lucky enough to meet him a couple of times in pre-season.
He doesn't deserve the stick he gets either.
This is what happens. Hold on, I'm going to say the Steve Wraith copyrighted line. This is what happens when you put your head above the parapet, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, watch it. But I would love to have keys to your TARDIS anyway.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
The amount of time
I might do the shave. I might do the shave on Wednesday just to make myself feel better when I actually turn 50. But yeah, listen, I've had a fantastic couple of days with friends and family. It was absolutely brilliant, and looking forward to Wednesday. I'm just going to spend that with my direct family, my wife and my family. We're going to have a meal out, so I'm looking forward to that. But no, thanks to everybody who's wished as well on Twitter, and thanks to those who've had a pop as well. It brings you back down to earth, keeps your feet on the ground. Anything
50th.
else, Jeff, before we bring Alan on?
My 50th, right? Which was a while ago.
It doesn't look like it.
I've still got this inject. That was my last game. I've still got the ticket.
Have you?
Middlesbrough at home, we went down.
Oh, was that back in the days of Mark Viduka?
Yep. Was it?
Oh, dear me.
It was 12 years ago. We went down. That was the first time we went down.
Joey Barton got sent off against Liverpool and we never recovered from that. Alan Shearer was manager. Yeah, okay.
Oh, I must talk to someone about that sometime. About Joey Barton being sent off against, who was it? With Frank, when Sam Allardyce was managing.
Yes.
Smacked somebody.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. But he got sent off at Anfield, didn't he? Shearer had heavily relied on him. Newcastle had backed him when he was in prison. Shearer was heavily relying on him, especially in the dressing room because he was a character. And then he got sent off for a stupid challenge and cost us. He cost us. There's no doubt.
No, but the incident where he smacked somebody, was it Blackburn? He smacked Sorensen or somebody.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but he'd said something to him. And Big Sam must have put that idea into his head because he used to manage him. So he obviously knew something he could say to Barton to make him go apeshit.
Yeah.
And that's Sam Allardyce tactics, that is. Right.
Definitely.
Because he got him sent off.
Jeff, been an absolute pleasure, mate. We've got to move on. But listen, thank you for coming on. Been a pleasure to share the screen with you. Thanks for all your support and keeping the lads in check when I'm not here on a Monday.
Happy birthday.
Take care. Thank you, mate. Bye-bye. Great to have Jeff on. He's a character, isn't he, Holly?
Yeah, he is. Always love Jeff on the 5-minute rant and always brings an interesting perspective as well.
He does. Fantastic. Thanks for coming on, Jeff. Alan Thompson, we're going to bring you in next. We've got James Moore lined up after that. So, Alan Thompson, how are you?
Hiya, Jeff. Hiya, Holly. Just want to say, get in.
Yeah, fantastic, Alan, wasn't it? What a result. And, it's becoming a habit, which we enjoy, winning games.
Great speaking to you, Steve, after such a while. My name keeps coming on the comments all the time. But I have to say one thing, Steve. There's another Alan Thompson as well. So I'm thinking, that's not me, Steve. When you were saying I'm not happy with Eddie Howe going, I am happy with Eddie Howe. So there is another Alan Thompson out there putting comments on the screen. I have to say, 3 in a row is great, Holly. And you're entitled to your opinion, Holly. I would say Wood was terrible. I thought Wood was up. But then again, Steve, there was a fact that he won 13 out of 15 aerial duels, so that put me in my place. So there you go. I just hope it keeps on going. The run keeps on going. It's going to be very hard against West Ham. They're a quality team. And Brentford's one of them games where you expect something out of, but Newcastle let you down. So we've got 2 very hard games coming up. But if we keep it going, the Trippier injury is a big blow, I must admit. It is a big blow. But I go on a lot of podcasts, Steve, wind the opposing fans up, Leeds, Everton and Aston Villa, and they've got one thing in common. They all say, we're terrible, but they've just been beaten by us. So what does that make them? That's how I look at it. If they're getting beat off us, I'm thinking, but retract what you're saying, because you've just got beat off us. If we're terrible, then so should you be then, if that's the case. I'm glad to see Holly's coming around our way of positive thinking. It's 70-30 now, Holly, I think, will stay up. But still a long way to go. I noticed in the chat there, Stephen, Holly, that a lot of people are wanting Bruno to start. But I grew up in an age, Holly, where Liverpool dominated and they signed players and they didn't get a game or two, even though they were world-class players. I always remember Terry Mack, Steve, saying he never got a game or 2 or 3 months because they embedded him into the team. And he was so desperate to get on that when he got on, he says, I don't want to be out the team because I'll be on the bench. And I think it's wise what you said, Steve, and Nick Lewis said about Joe Willock. It's fantastic advice. Let Bruno gradually get into it. We're on a winning streak. Why change a winning formula? And I have to hold my hands up, Steve. Never in a million years would I've said this. But Joe Willock, from being one of the worst players I've ever seen, is one of the best midfielders that we've got now at the club. I think he's immense. Breaking up play. He's our Kanté, what I mentioned on the show yesterday. He's our Kanté, what Chelsea have got. If you watch him break up play and set up attacks time and time again. The difference is, Holly, where Willock, there was a comment before, which was spot on, is where Willock falls down, he loses the ball more. Where Joe Linton very rarely loses the ball. He wins it and passes it on. Where, unfortunately for Joe Willock, he loses the ball and his control isn't right. But he does his fair share of nicking the ball off players and setting up attacks. And so that's why I disagree with you, Holly, that Willock did have a good game on Sunday. But I can see where you're coming from, because there were certain times where he does lose the ball and frustration. But for me, Wood was the worst player. But then again, the facts say that he wasn't by a mile.
The Wood situation's the interesting one because, he's not had the greatest of starts. Holly and I were debating after the match. I mean, do you think he would have scored the penalty? And we discussed this last night. Holly didn't. I think he would have, but he's an international penalty taker. But then it comes down to confidence, and his confidence is rock bottom at the minute. You can see it. You can see it in his demeanour. But that isn't preventing him from running around and doing the job that he's got to do and winning those aerial battles, and winning 13 out of 15 headers, which is a stat, and that's a fact. And it's something that he's done, relentlessly. But he's not getting the chances in the box. He's never had a ball on his head for a 6-yard header. He had one shot yesterday, which was awful. I think we can all admit that. But he's doing a job that he's been asked to do, and he's allowing the freedom. Somebody made the point in the chat last night. He's allowing the freedom for somebody like Joe Linton, ASM. So you've essentially got him doing that job, and he's taking up a defender or 2 defenders with his height and his size, whilst ASM gets a little bit of freedom. So it's all about being part of a team and doing your bit. And we're not, not every player is going to have a great game on a day. And I mean that's it, Holly, isn't it? We discussed this. I still think he'll come good, but everybody's got to do their bit in a team game, Holly.
Yeah, they do. And I think obviously the thing is with Chris Wood is we knew what we were getting when we signed him. We knew he wasn't going to be a prolific goal scorer. Of course, it weakened a relegation rival in Burnley. And I think he'll do a job this season. He is good in the air and he does try. You can't fault him for that. Unfortunately, the goals aren't coming, which I think won't be helping his confidence. Hopefully, he adds them to his game at some point in the season. But look, I think nobody would want someone like Chris Wood as Newcastle's first choice striker, but currently with the injury to Callum Wilson, that's all we've got. I think we tried to bring in another attacking option in the window, failed to do that for whatever reason, and we can worry about that in the summer. But till the end of the season, we'll have to get behind Chris Wood and just hope that he can get that goal.
Yeah, next week would be a good week for it as well, wouldn't it? I mean, Joe Linton has been a revelation, Alan. You're right. I mean, he's been superb, and I think everybody is rightly praising him. And the question that was asked last night in the chat was, do you think he's starting to repay his £40 million, Alan?
Oh, without a doubt, Steve. Without a doubt, as a midfielder. I watched him yesterday. I was unfortunate I couldn't get a ticket for the game, Steve. I gave my season ticket up a few years back. And now my wife's getting on me back that I should have bought it last year before the takeover. So I watched it on TV. I was at the Everton game, which was fantastic. Atmosphere, everything. And he has, without a doubt. And you can see, if you notice the goal, Steve, he's integrated in the team. He was celebrating just like Trippier with the fans. And he's right in the community. And I think Bruno will help him, or he'll help Bruno as well settle in, with them both being Brazilians. I think you'll help them and realise what a big club we are. Going forward, I think the future's looking bright. Touch wood, guys, I really do, Holly. If we survive this season, I think we can only go from strength to strength. And Gary Neville mentioned on his podcast that St James's Park's back, and I think it is. I think everybody's got a smile on their face now, going to the ground, and everybody's anticipation. And really, it's chalk and cheese to what it was 4 or 5 months ago when we were going to the game. Can't be happier, really, Steve, to be honest.
Yeah,
really.
It's a reality check, isn't it? Because it's easy to forget. The club was only taken over on the 7th of October, 2021. Yeah. It feels all right. It feels like a lot longer. But, you know, we've made a hell of a stride forward in a short space of time. And the job isn't done yet, but, it's in our own hands now. I mean... are you more confident, Alan? I mean, you said Holly. I mean, Holly's been very pessimistic most of the season, rightly so. We stood at Wolves, soaking wet, watching Newcastle getting beaten. Steve Bruce in the dugout, going, "We aren't staying up here. We're going down." And then the takeover happened, and suddenly, there's a new emphasis. Everyone's excited, and there's hope. Transfer window comes around. Newcastle's competing for anybody and everybody, and the transfer business we have done. Bearing in mind, we haven't got a chief executive officer. We haven't got a director of football. Has been nothing short of brilliant. And there's no other way of saying that. It's been measured. It's been sensible. We've overpaid, yes, for Chris Wood, but we bought a striker from a relegation rival. And I don't know whether people realise, but their striker that they bought and spent money on in the transfer window went off injured yesterday. That really is going to play its part. Burnley haven't got a striker, and without Chris Wood, they seem to be struggling massively. And if Weghorst, whatever he's called, is injured now and could be out for a couple of games, that's only going to benefit Newcastle's cause. So, are you confident we're going to stay up?
I am now, Steve. I really am. I watched. It's funny enough. A couple of weeks ago, Holly, I watched the Norwich Watford game on Sky with heart in my mouth. Which one I wanted to win was draw a better result, and they were appalling. And I thought, if we can't beat, have enough points to beat Watford, Norwich and Burnley, then we deserve to go down, Steve. And I think we're far better than them now, especially with the new signings. And another point, Steve, about people say about the owners, they've been fantastic. Because if you go on Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United podcasts, Everton podcasts, Steve, seriously, they absolutely detest their owners. They absolutely, and especially Arsenal and Tottenham fans, they detest their owners. Like the Levy and Kroenke, they really do. And they do. They're lying 4th and 5th and 6th in the league, and they're crying, like as if where we were, but we've had far tougher than what they've had. I mean, good luck to Derby if Ashley gets involved in that scenario down there.
Good luck, Derby.
Pity help them, God help them. And it's the same with West Brom, Steve. Like I say, some people, the West Brom board must think Steve Bruce is a good manager. Now, we could slate them for all matter means on Twitter, Ollie. So he would be second worst person on Twitter. You wouldn't be the first. You're entitled, Holly, to your own opinion. I make that point last year. Entitled to your own opinion. If you think Willock was poor, that's your prerogative. Don't be swayed by other people giving abuse on social media. Thankfully, I only go on Facebook, so I wouldn't know what Twitter was all about. But everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether they agree or disagree. But there's no need for abuse or calling people the horrible names for it. It's simple as that. But I am looking forward to the rest of the season. And I was, Steve, like you and most people, watching the TV, and my face was like a brick wall because I was that nervous. I was, Steve. So if I was at the match, I would be exactly the same. But actually calmed down after the last 15 minutes, Steve, because again, I think Howe changed the tactics there. He put 5 in midfield and it stifled Villa's midfield. I actually didn't think Coutinho was playing. I thought he was in the bar having a drink before the game and he hadn't come out.
You couldn't have got better praise though. Gerrard came off and just held his hands up and said we were awful and Newcastle were great and we just couldn't break them down. And I mean that is music to your ears. I mean, our Premier League record against Aston Villa is actually really good anyway. I think Andrea covered that on the Three Amigos on Friday at 2 in Stato. But yeah, we have a good win ratio against Aston Villa in the Premier League at home, and that continued again. McGinn, who I seem to hear more about, from Villa fans than anybody else, was anonymous and got subbed. We did the job on them in midfield. Shelvey was immense. Willock played well. Joe Linton played well. Those three were key in that win yesterday. They stifled Aston Villa. They spoilt the party for them, and they gave us the opportunity to get that, to get that win. And fantastic, honestly. It's great to be positive, I think Jeff nailed it a little bit earlier when he said there's a bit of it's a bit of pre-Mike Ashley anxiety that still hangs around the club. And Holly, you're nodding your head. You're right. It's what it is, Holly. We've discussed this. You've only known Mike Ashley, Holly, haven't you? And that's the thing. It's a bit of anxiety. We're too scared to believe at the minute, Holly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. And I said to you yesterday, like, it still doesn't feel real that the takeovers went through. I think it won't feel real until we do start to see significant progression within the team. And I think the new ones have done brilliant, but you're constantly worrying. I mean, obviously, and I'm not saying this is the case at all, by the way, but obviously when Ashley first took over, there was that initial excitement and things went very sour. So I think you're always going to be a bit reserved until you do see that long-term benefits that we'll get from the new owners, but they've been absolutely brilliant. But yeah, you're almost too scared because as Newcastle fans, we've always had a period of success, a period of positivity, and then we'd be straight back down to reality with a heavy defeat straight after. So when we win a game, it sometimes feels like we're just expecting some bad to come out of it, and I think that's going to take a while to get out of the fan base.
I think one thing you've got to remember, Holly, I wish I was 16 again or 17, because to be honest with you, Steve, we, for the first time in my lifetime supporting Newcastle, we have owners, I say a second time, Sir John Hall and Freddie Shepherd did care about the club, but I've supported them for 53 years now, Holly, and to be honest, for majority of that time, the owners have never cared. They've been like what Man United and Arsenal, Tottenham fans and Everton fans are complaining about now. They're just making money out of the club, and yes, the owners that we've got, I'm not blinkered that they want money and the investment to make. But for once, I think they're trying to get where we win trophies. And money follows from that. If you win trophies, you get more advertisement, you get more acknowledgement around the world. And prior to that, the owners of our club, that's why Beatty, Gascoigne, Waddle all left, because there was no ambition at the club, Holly. So prior to Sir John Hall coming, I never even thought, Steve, that would ever even be linked with winning the title. It was only a realisation. It took us 2 years to realise, Holly, when Hall and Shepherd come on and won Football Focus, and we had Lee Clark, we had Steve Howie, Peter Beardsley, we had Philip Albert, on the bench before Sheffield Wednesday game. We won, and Ginola scored a cracking goal. And then somebody said we could win the league. And that was the first realisation in my life. We could be English champions. And it was a great feeling. And I think, Holly, you've got a chance. And if years to come, it won't happen overnight. But I honestly believe in 5 to 10 years, we will be challenging Man City for the title. Because they won't be going away. And Liverpool won't be going away. But I think we'll be fighting for the title. And that's what excites us. And I just hope I'm alive. That's all I hope, Steve. I hope I'm alive.
Supermac yesterday in the bar at the Dog and Parrot pre-match said Newcastle will be competing for the Premier League on a regular basis within 4 or 5 years with these owners. And that's great to hear. You know what I mean? And as a fan, to listen to Malcolm, and Malcolm's never one to hand out praise easily. He likes what he sees and he's enjoying it. And he thought the transfer window was great. Like us all, wanted a goal scorer. Sadly, never got one. But he's met the owners. You know, he's been lucky enough to go in and see Manda and Mirdad, and he just likes what he sees. And you know, if he feels like that, then you know I'm confident as well.
It's got his goosebumps, as Gary Neville said yesterday on the podcast. Sorry, goosebumps that we could be challenging for the title again. And actually win it, Steve. I honestly do think we could win it. But it's a few years yet. It won't happen.
Let's not get carried away. But I will start dusting my passport off. I've renewed it.
Relegation battle.
Europe could be round the corner in the next couple of seasons. Let's settle for the League Cup first, though. The League Cup at Wembley, that would be nice.
Any cup, Steve, Holly. Any cup will do, man. You've got to start somewhere. Any cup will do in my lifetime. But thanks for having us on, Stephen, Holly. But stick to your opinions, Holly. Don't be swayed by Twitter. That nonsense. You know, you've got the right to your own opinion. I'll let you go, Steve. I'll wrap it on because I can
Alan,
wrap it on.
Fantastic to have you on, mate. And an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Take care, mate. Have a good week.
Thanks,
I
Alan.
already have, Steve. Already have. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye, mate. Great to have people coming on and joining us. If you want to do the same, then click on the link. It's in the chat. We're going to bring James in now. And James, I've got to be perfectly honest, mate. I have sat and watched you in the green room whilst other people have been on, and I have been so jealous of those blue skies.
Oh, my God. It's beautiful. It's beautiful here. And actually, it's probably around 55 degrees, so this beanie I have on really doesn't do it justice because I've got a bald head. So.
Fantastic, though. Whereabouts are you?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. Great to have you on. Wonderful to have you on. And I wish can you send some of that sun over as soon as possible, please, because I miss it.
Oh, God.
So what would you like to say tonight, James?
Well, for one, I would just like to say that hopefully, Ollie, you're not dissuaded by Twitter because, I don't agree with people. Everyone has an opinion, but to say somebody's stupid for making a comment, it's uncalled for. And podcasts are about fans' opinions. If not, you're going to be listening to pundits all day. And we all know what happens when you listen to pundits all day. So, I find your analysis, brilliant. And you should take pride in what you do. And like I said, for anybody out there that wants to criticize somebody on Twitter, fine, but there is a line. If you wouldn't say it to the person to their face, then just don't do it.
Thank you, James.
With that being said, you are wrong about Willock.
Yes, I did tell her yesterday, James. I did tell her.
He's getting better. I think he's going through a little bit of the old Joe Linton syndrome where he just needs some confidence. And you can see over the past couple of weeks he has gotten that confidence. But he's not quite living up to the 35 million. But he'll get there. And I think a guy like Trippier will put his arm around him and say, hey, you're much better than this. So I'm going to wait till to the end of the season to judge him. But I think he definitely has a place on this team.
I agree. What do you think, Holly? I mean, you're listening to people. It's still split in the chat. I think a lot of people do agree with you. That Willock hasn't performed well, but ultimately, do you still see that that there's a future for him, Holly, that he can progress and go back to where he was last season?
Yeah, of course. Look, I wanted to sign him at the end of that season. I think everyone did. He was such a prolific goal scorer coming off the bench. But I think the issue that we had was Joe Willock didn't actually get a lot of game time under Steve Bruce. He just stood out a lot because he was coming and scoring those really important goals. So I don't feel like we got to see the full extent of what Joe Willock does. Then he signed for us. He was starting games, and unfortunately his goals didn't follow. And I think that got a lot of people on his back, especially considering he was the only signing of the summer. We paid that big fee, so we had a lot of pressure on him, and I feel bad for him in that respect. He hasn't performed. I think mentally he'll be struggling massively. But look, he has gradually started to improve over the last 3 or 4 games. I think Leeds he did well. And hopefully he just does get that confidence back, because I think that's what it's coming down to at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, could you have imagined 3 wins, James, in those last 3 games? I mean, a couple of months ago, we were looking at the fixture list going, where is the next win coming from? But then, we've just had this amazing turnaround.
No, and I don't think anybody saw 3 wins in a row. And when we didn't get another striker at the deadline, I was like, I saw us maybe going on a Brighton run where the best we're going to do was a draw. But I would like to say that, getting off topic, Dan Burn is a stud.
Big lad, big Dan Burn.
Oh my God! And with Trippier going out, I feel a lot better about that defense after what I saw yesterday. Shaky at times, but he's still, he manages to calm everyone down. I mean, even at times when yesterday we looked like a mass unit out on the field. But, I mean, it's nice to see. And I'm really not worried about West Ham, because I don't know what Antonio is going to show up. I don't know what's happened to him. I think he's underachieved with the Jamaican team. I think a lot of that's kind of carried over after the international break. But yeah, I'd like 4 in a row is very possible. Everton looks like fool's gold because, yes, it was a great performance, but it was Leeds. And they're the only team in the league that plays like that, so you really can't judge. I mean, you can't say if they're going to play like that for the rest of the season.
Yeah, big Dan Burn, I think, has got it in him to be captain as well. I think Trippier will certainly be captain when he returns. I think he will get the captaincy next season, but I think Dan Burn as well would be a great leader. And it's just, I think the big difference in Dan Burn and any of the other centre-halves that we've got is that when he was winning the ball and heading it, or intercepting it, it was going to one of our players. It wasn't going straight to the opposition. And that's the difference between a centre-half and a good centre-half for me. Somebody who can find the man with a clearance. And he was doing that all the time yesterday. And you were right. For somebody so big, he's just got complete control. And I hate to say it because I've said this already about Trippier, but I feel like Trippier is the best right back I've seen at the club in my time as a fan since 1984. And I'm looking at Big Dan Burn now, and I'm going, I know I've only seen him play one game. I don't want to get too carried away. But Woodgate's always been my centre half. Steve Howie Woodgate, always like my favourite ones in history. But I'm looking at him and going, this could be the best centre half I've seen. It really could be. It's exciting times, James.
Yeah, yes, it is. Any word on Dubravka? Because when he grabbed his foot yesterday, I was like, oh my God, no Darlow. Or is he fine? I mean, it just kind of worried me when he went down,
Yeah, Dubravka's injury, was really bad, James. And I mean, the club don't have the right to disclose someone's medical issues, but I believe it was a potential career ender at one point. That was the rumor that we had. Allegedly, it could have ended his career. So I think there's a big intake of breath whenever he goes down. It backs up my thoughts in the sense that the next transfer window, we do need to bring in a goalkeeper. We need to bring in somebody who could challenge Dubravka, but also can come in and take over naturally from him. And every great team that challenges for honours builds from the back and has a great goalkeeper. So I think that will be a priority in the summer, along with hopefully 2 goal scorers, because we need 2.
And just in closing, I'm a huge crime fan also, and so when you mentioned the special on the Yorkshire Ripper, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And went onto Netflix, and they have a piece that was done last year on it, and it was fascinating. So keep up the great work on the true crime, because I study a lot of North American crime, and I'm just now getting into more of the European stuff. So yes, I think that show is great.
Well, thanks very much, James. If you can get ITV Hub, tomorrow, Tuesday night, is the last episode of Secrets of the Craze. And I do feature on that documentary tomorrow night. I was a producer on that show on ITV. But if you get a chance to watch ITV, which is obviously our channel over here, The Secrets of the Craze, you'll be able to watch it on Catch Up. And I'm on 9 o'clock tomorrow night on ITV. So I hope you enjoy that.
All right. It was a pleasure. Stephen Holly, like Howard Stern, they always do first time caller and have a little bell in the background. But yes, this was a true pleasure.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do, James. Now, this is you. I know we do have this little special thing. I'm going to give you this tonight. You're going to get the Jackie Milburn goal of approval. There you go, mate. That's what you get for being a first-time caller, James. Thank you for sharing the blue sky with us, mate. And please feel free to come on anytime, mate. God bless you and your family. Take care, mate.
All right, thank you. Pleasure.
Great to have James on, and some nice words for you as well, Holly. Nice to hear that people across the pond are giving you some support. So ignore the trolls. Okay, what I'm going to do is, because we are coming towards the end of the show, I'm going to bring Darran in, but I'm also going to bring my co-star from the other show that we do on this channel, which is the Current Affairs show, Lee in. How are you, Lee? Sorry, Darran, I'm just going to test Lee's internet, because the other night when I was absolutely comatose on a show, Lee's internet kept going off and it didn't help us. So, Lee, how are you?
Yeah, no, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, we're good.
It's looking good, mate. It's made you look older, the internet, but at least it's working. We'll come to you in a minute, Lee. Great to see you, though. Darran, how are you?
Not too bad.
Good to see you, pal. What do you want to say tonight?
First of all, I've heard about Holly get a bit stick on Twitter. I ignore them because there's just jealous people out there, and it's great what you do for us. We enjoy listening to it, so keep the good work up. I was at the match on Sunday. It wasn't it was a good defensive performance. Dan Burn looked solid at the back. Devastated lost Trippier because he keeps the back four organised, and it's like a big loss for 6 weeks. And like he'll come on. What do you call him? Kate come on. He wasn't the same caliber. Do you know what I mean? It's worrying the defence, but Trippier was solid, and then he's not there. I hope he just somehow get a couple of results. You know.
I still think I think Trippier's influence in and around with it. Obviously, what we've seen is a different class of player come in. He is top class, but I still think his influence in and around that team. I mean, obviously we're going to miss him, but mate, do you know what? I think he's been an absolute blessing, hasn't he? Just the professionalism, the work ethic. You can even see he actually, dare I say, gives a shit, which is something that we've been lacking for many years, mate. In it, so I still think he'll have a positive influence, if I'm honest.
Yeah, you can go to the training ground, keep the lads, and keep them positive, and get more motivation, and keep the. He captain yesterday. He's only been at the club not even 2 minutes. He's captain already, and you can see
his game. You can tell his game is a badger, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. It was a good performance. I say it was like Joe Linton 7 weeks ago. I was seeing he was the worst player on the pitch. Now he's just unbelievable. He's just like he's working hard. He's tracking back. He's getting stuck in. Do you know what I mean? It's just
crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? How things can. It's amazing. What one day you're a £10 million player, and the next day you're a £50 million player. That's the crazy world of football, mate, isn't it? So it's weird.
It is mental. And I mean, Darran, I'm looking at this now and going, I would have been gutted if Trippier's injury's bad, right? But I think John from QTech made the point in the chat before. Target will be playing next week, and Dan Burn will be, and those two players are both great new signings and both just settled in. You feel like they've been there all the time. And I think James made the point before. I think he called him a stud, which is clearly what the Atlantas were calling. But I know exactly what he meant. You're just going, wow, this guy plays for us now. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It really is. At the moment, Darran, there's just a newfound optimism, and that the winning games breeds success and it breeds the confidence, Darran, I think. And I'm not going to West Ham worried at all.
Well, Dan Burn was up. You know what I mean? You want to think on the ball. He was solid. He committed. I'll give him man the match. Me personally, I'll give him man the match. But he looked solid. He felt like he'd been there all season. How he played. Yeah,
Steve Middlemas has said he would have Trippier on the sidelines with his crutches on the sidelines, shouting as he would do well with that. I think a lot of people will see that. I think he'd want to be involved. He will want to be involved. He'll want to be in the dressing room. He'll want to be part of it. And I think Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall will want him to be part of it.
Absolutely, Matt. The creating, when we talk about things like chemistry and team togetherness and all that, and we all slate footballers these days by saying, listen, they're picking up the 200 grand a week. You can see clearly, it doesn't take a genius to work out. You can see clearly the lad that it actually means something to. And I think to him, it means something, as in he's come up through, he's not always been world class. He's not always been at, Newcastle earning X amount of money a week and Atletico Madrid. He's come up through the ranks. So to him, this is his final swan song, don't forget. He's 30, 31. He wants to make a good impression. And at the end of the day, you can earn all the money you want in the world. But what leaves you is your legacy, isn't it? And I think he sees this as his last kind of foray into football. So, yeah, absolutely, mate. He'll be on the sideline, chewing the fat and, and giving what he can.
Yeah. Darran, what do you reckon? Do you think Newcastle is going to stay up now? Are you confident?
Must be.
Can you still hear us?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident to stay up. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, I've lost you.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
I think I've lost you, my signal.
No, we can hear you, mate.
We can still hear you. It's just slightly delayed. Go on.
Yeah, I think we'll stay up definitely, but I think we'll get I think we need another 5 wins, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, mate. No worries. Okay, Darran, your internet is going a little bit weird, mate. But listen, great coming on. Good points you've made. Thanks for coming on, Darran.
See you later, bud.
Right.
Cheers, mate. Good to have Darran on. I had him on before. Great caller as always. Yeah, Lee. I mean, it's exciting times, isn't it? It's we're sitting back now, literally watching this, going, where could this go? And Malcolm MacDonald yesterday in the pre-match talking at the Dog and Parrot said he believes Newcastle will be challenging for the league within the next 4 or 5 years.
It's a big ask, isn't it? When you look at the finance, but if you believe what people say we've got, then why not? Listen, why not? Man City have done it, Chelsea have done it. I mean, I know it took a period of time, but but why not be challenging in 5 years if they're really that serious about things? And I think they are, because even the signings we've made this window suggest that they've got, like I keep saying, a methodical approach, a progressive approach. I actually think they're in it for the long run. So why not be challenging in 4 or 5 years? Who's to say not?
Yeah. Okay, let's finish off with this question because we are going to have a shorter show tonight. So apologies for everyone who is used to having Pete and Chris on for hours on end, but this is my night off. We didn't want to let the regulars down though, and we're blessed we came on because we managed to get Lee's internet working, and we've had a wonderful call from Atlanta with James, as well as having a couple of the regulars in, Alan and Jet one. A sideline question: we need season ticket points to get away tickets. How do we start getting points if we haven't got any? Catch 22. Yeah, Sean, this is going to be a big debate now over the next God knows how long, because with success brings crowds. It brings people who come back who walked away. It brings people back who it brings people to the ground who are new supporters. And Newcastle United will find that there is going to be a demand for tickets. What do they do, Holly? What do they do? And you're in this position, Holly, because you're punished for being too young. Brentford, first game. I mean, we've managed to obtain some tickets for Brentford, but the Brentford game in 2 weeks' time, you hadn't got any tickets because the points for those tickets were too high. So you're suffering not because of the fact that you're not going to games. You're suffering because you're too young and you haven't been able to accrue those amount of points.
Yeah, I have got points. I have been going for the past few years, but obviously I haven't got the numbers that people who are significantly older than me do, because it's impossible. So when games stand out on 140 points, it's a nightmare. Obviously, I'm hoping that's not going to be a common occurrence because some grounds have bigger capacities than others. But for people that have no points, I do feel bad for those people, because I think, honestly, they're going to struggle to get a single ticket this season. And I'd say the only way you're probably going to get them is maybe pre-season friendlies and stuff. But then again, there's only 2 or 3 a year. So it is going to be a nightmare. But I don't see much that the club can do, because I know some people feel it's unfair. But the people with hundreds of loyalty points should get tickets, in my opinion.
Okay, listen, Tony's joined us, so I'm going to bring him in and he can help us with this particular issue as well. Tony, good evening.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Holly. All right?
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Look, the question we're being asked, I'm going to ask you this before you bring up a couple of points you might want to bring up, is points. How do we solve this problem that they've got? Because if the club continue to, get better and then eventually start competing for honours, how are they going to work this out?
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? It's a damned if you do and a damned if you don't. I saw a thing Mitch said a couple of weeks ago that he had two season tickets, and obviously they deleted the wrong points off the wrong card, and obviously he couldn't get them back, and that was obviously before Ashley came along. But yeah, it's a strange one with the loyalty points, because I mean, it's how they're going to work it. I don't know.
Do we need a bigger stadium for the home games?
I think we're going to need a bigger stadium, yeah.
Would you move? Would you be upset like people were under John Hall when he was suggesting moving to Gateshead? What would you want to do, Tony? Would you want them to try and relocate? We tried to build it on the town moor, but then you got all the NIMBYs, not in my backyard, all campaigning. They didn't want it built on the town moor and Lees's Park. So, you know, what can we do?
There's not, because I mean, you know, it's unless we can get some sort of expansion on the current stadium, like the Gallagher end. But I know Ashley sold that land behind it, didn't he?
Yeah, the company's gone bust allegedly. So if that's the case, I would be very surprised if the Rubens, Mia, Dad, Amanda et al. Haven't gone in and bought that land already.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Yeah.
You can extend on the Gallagher.
Really.
Yeah, you can extend on the Gallagher. 7,500 on the Gallagher. And I have told people this before, but when I worked at the football club, and the chief executive at the time was David Stonehouse, he did show me the plans to build on the East Stand. But the cost of building a new East Stand would mean that we would have to buy the student accommodation behind, which is, believe it or not, now owned by a Saudi businessman. That particular building, though, would have to be incorporated into the back of any new stand. So the Victorian frontage, which is listed, would have to be incorporated within any new stand. But we could do it. So, that would then give us an option to have a level ground all the way through, and we would have an equal stand all the way around. That would probably be the way to do it. However, the cost of that would be the same as building a new stadium to build one stand. I guess it comes down to basic economics, but we are the richest club in the world, so maybe we could do that. Who knows?
I mean,
it all depends, mate. It all depends on what they view as a long-term plan, doesn't it? If they really are here to stay, they will already be looking at 70, 80,000, whatever it may be. But if they're here, it all depends, mate, doesn't it, what their long-term goal is? Because let's face it, money's no option. So whether they just want to put another 8,000 seats on and have do with it and keep the kind of the beautifulness about it, or whether they want a separate site somewhere with big commercial enterprise, we don't know, do we? That's the real issue, isn't it? We don't know really what they want.
This will always cause debate. Shieldsy, the stadium is the soul of the city. Colin Wilson says, I heard a Spurs fan saying their ground was a stadium, not a football ground. Bringing back White Hart Lane. Send it up here. We will turn it into a football ground. Turn the pitch round and start again. Yes, Jeff, but where we're going to go and play? Where we're going to go and play whilst that's happening? Town Moor is the best place for Ryan, the best place for an 80k stadium. Relocation, but within Newcastle, I don't think would be objected to by many, by these owners. These owners said, this is what we would like to do, and this is why I would like to do it. And the fans were consulted. I think that would work. But you've got to beware that will be people who are going to be against a move of any sort. And that's the way it's going to be.
When I first got my season ticket, mate, which was back in the kind of the Bobby era, so really we were on obviously before your time, Hull. We were really in the ascendancy. And I always used to think, you know what, we could fill 70, 80,000 people a week because it was that fanatical. But then obviously the Ashley era took over. I'd just love to see one day, us with a big fat ground with 80,000 people in, eclipsing Old Trafford and all the rest of it. And I genuinely do think there's that interest there.
Wembley of the North. A Wembley of the North.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's a special club. It's a special club, mate, and nobody can argue with it.
A lot of land at Gosforth Park. Again, Dean, I know where you're coming from with that. The beauty of St James's Park, as everybody knows, is that it's in the city centre and it's within walking distance of pubs, restaurants, and that is one thing that everybody is jealous of. But, are people willing to sacrifice that for a stadium which is going to, allow lots more fans to come and be part of it? It's a debate for another day, but it just shows you already there is so much interest in this. And Metro Radio Arena, Tom, you're right, that's getting flattened when the new place gets built in Gateshead, and that may well be the place.
Is that getting flattened? Is it?
Well, that's the rumor, yeah, and that could be a place. However, without going off on a complete Jeff tangent here, global warming does predict that the Tyne Bridge. This is probably for our surely actually. I've seen drawings and documentation of what global warming will bring, and by the time we get to the Tyne Bridge, I think the water's going to be up to where the bottom of the Tyne Bridge is. The Hilton will have literally the water will be leveled at the Hilton. It's about 40, 50 years' time. But, you know, you've got to bear this in mind. If you're going to build a new stadium on the Tyne, it's going to be underwater. It's going to be like playing at Atlantis United.
As long as we're all royalists, mate, we're all right.
Don't start that again. Right, I'm going to give Tony a chance to have a few points, because he did come on and I've hijacked his 5 minutes or so to get his points across. So what did you want to say tonight, Tony, before we finish?
Great result yesterday. Yes, it wasn't the prettiest of game, but you know what? I don't mind winning ugly. How many times have Arsenal won 1-0 and, you know, scraped through games? And so at the end of the day, doesn't matter how bad we played yesterday, because I think we played quite well in patches. Okay, St. Maximum didn't have his best game, but he was still there hanging around waiting for the ball. I think it took it out of him on Tuesday night, all the running around he did on Tuesday. But fantastic to get that win yesterday and put us 4 clear of the relegation zone. That's the most important part about it.
I would agree.
And I thought Shaw and Byrne were a rock at the back. And this might split opinion. What I'm going to say now is, if Jamal Lascelles is fit for Saturday, I'm sorry, but he can't just walk straight back into that team now. He's going to have to fight for his place, because there is no way you can take Byrne and Shaw out of that team now. Byrne was man of the match yesterday by a mile.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else, Tony, that you want to bring up for us to discuss?
Yeah, and you know, and obviously a lot of fans over the transfer window saying, "Oh well, we've brought Target in, we've brought Byrne in." Yeah, but the thing is, so the owners have brought people in who have got Premier League experience. And Dan Byrne, you'd think he'd played at the Town for years. He just stepped in yesterday. You wouldn't even think he was a new signing. You'd think we'd had him there for the last 10 years. He just stepped in and just boom. Even got a souvenir.
He's been waiting all his life for that, Tony.
Hey?
He's been waiting all his life for that opportunity, mate.
He has, yeah. I mean, he even got a souvenir of Tyrone Mings, didn't he? Half of his shirt.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. That, I mean, look, to get him in was a great moment, and fair play again for knowing that he's, you know, that there was a chance of getting him in this transfer window, and I think that was fantastic. Really good. Holly, you were impressed, weren't you, by Big Dan Byrne? And the kid in front of us wasn't impressed, because I kept saying Big Dan Byrne every time he won a header or a ball. He was getting really. I was in between that. I was shouting I was a royalist, but yeah. Yeah, you loved Dan Byrne, Holly. He was great, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was great. Look, like it's been mentioned before, he looks like he's been in that side for ages. First time I think we've had a centre-back in a while that's just came in and made the type of improvement that he did. Constantly, you know, when he's got the ball, he's not making any mistakes, and he's just solid at the back. He's exactly what we need. Someone to come in if Lascelles is going to be not be part of that side going forward. I think someone like Byrne is exactly who we need in that central defence. And he played well alongside Shaw as well, who I think has been very good for the past few games.
There's a solution to what Tony's just said. Shaw right back, Lascelles and Byrne at centre half, and Taggart left back. Target left back. But people keep calling him Taggart, and I've fallen for it now. Target. It's not the guy who...
That's a Scottish right back, isn't it?
I think, Shaw right back, Lascelles and Byrne centre half, and Target at left back for the games while Trippier's out. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. I've got to be perfectly honest.
The thing is, though, Steve, I mean, Ryan Fraser, when he played at
Bournemouth,
he played right wing back for a few times.
Yeah.
He's not going to revert back to wing backs, is he? He's not going to revert to a 3. He's going to stay with a formation that's winning games.
He could ask Ryan Fraser to do a job for a week or 3. I tell you what, though, because he's got the. I mean, he's not my favourite. I'll be honest with you, but I tell you what, he's got some graft in him.
He has.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play. I think he'll stick it. He'll keep with that formation up front. That's the temptation as a manager to do that, I guess. But I think he's going to go for something more sensible. I think he likes Kraft, and I know Kraft could have cost us the game yesterday, but I don't think he could play Kraft. Dummett plays well at left back as well. There's so many permutations. He'll be looking at what West Ham, what West Ham did in the last couple of fixtures. He'll be watching videos, and it'll be an interesting one. But I trust how to get it right. Mark Roche says, "Can we discuss Fraser, please? He's excellent." Right, we'll go around the board first. I'll say that yes, Fraser, he owed us this, mind, because he was awful prior to this arrival of Howe. He let us down basically. Didn't seem to want to know. I've lost count of the number of times on this podcast. Anybody and everybody has said, well, why can't he do what he does for Scotland? Even Malcolm and Gibbo on a Thursday. Established centre forward and an established journalist, both telling you that this guy's cheating a living at Newcastle, but he's been superb, absolutely superb. And, his work rate is second to none at times, and he just gets stuck in. Part of a really good midfield. Holly?
Yeah, Ryan Fraser has been brilliant ever since Eddie Howe came to the club, in my opinion. And I think him and John Joe Shelby have to be the two most improved players under the new manager. Fraser, for me, he constantly tries 100%. You never, ever see him lacking in terms of the effort that he puts in a game. He does very well. I think from set pieces, he does decent as well. And he's been a very welcome player in this side. Someone that's very good for a season like this as well, because he gets stuck in, and in a scrappy relegation season, that's exactly what you want to see at the front of the field.
Yeah, Tony, then what's your views on Fraser?
Yeah, I echo everybody else. I think he's been absolutely brilliant since House came in. He's knuckled down. He's a totally different player to what he was under Steve Bruce. He's getting more game time, and you can see his fitness levels are getting better as well. And I mean, the way he ran yesterday, he was chasing back to get the ball. Absolutely brilliant. And he done that against Everton as well. And against Leeds, he was actually limping at one point towards the end of the game because he was doing that much running. He's been absolutely fantastic. Him, Shelby, and Joe Linton have been the three most improved players in that team, without a doubt. Joe Linton's now a midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And Lee, what about your views on Fraser?
Probably the same as you guys, to be fair. If you'd have asked me 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I'd have said he was the worst player on Newcastle's books. Purely because when I've seen him, he's underwhelmed. Even when I look at him, I think, do you know what? You're physically not there. And I mean, I know we can't go too much off that, but I tell you what, since Howell took over, and it shows you how much an influence a manager can have, or how much they can spark a reaction. If you'd have said to me, Shelby, a couple of months ago, I'd have said the guy is, I've watched him many a times, and on a football pitch, he's 2 passes ahead of every other footballer. Sometimes he's too good for his own good, if you know what I mean. We've had a poor side in the past, and Shelby's playing balls all over the shop that people are not getting onto. But I tell you what, since Eddie Howe's come in, he's got a grip of him. Same with the Fraser, and these two players have been the most improved, Jesus Christ, probably Premier League players that I've seen for a long time, never mind Newcastle players. Absolutely fantastic. Fraser's up and down like an absolute dynamo, isn't he?
I've just put that up there. That's from Craig Hope at the Daily Mail. Trippier's likely deputy is Javier Manquillo. He too went off injured on Sunday, and Howe feared ankle ligament damage. More results are awaited, but the word this morning was that there is hope. It's not too serious, was the final word on that write-up. So that is good news coming out of the club, which of course were needed after the bad news about Trippier. Ryan just agrees with me. The Fraser's attitude was disgusting. John from QTech gives us this. He says Manquillo, Shaw, Byrne and Target is his back four for West Ham. Mark says that Fraser's playing with a smile instead of a smacked arse. He had under a certain Captain Cabbage. People are waxing lyrical about individual players, but the biggest improvement since Howe came in is the level of fitness through the squad. Yeah, Mark. I mean, it makes a difference when you're not having 3 days off a week and having a Greg's diet, which is what Bruce had, or a Milligan's diet. I know we'll have regular Milligan's views. Paul Gibson, good atmosphere in the Old George yesterday. The Toon Army was out in force. The Garter was good as well. And if you move Fraser to right back, you could add Bruno to the midfield and play 4-4-2, says Yano. It's giving people plenty food for thought. Let's finish with that. I keep saying we're going to finish. We'll probably still be on at 9 o'clock. Every time I say we're going to finish, Holly's thinking Coronation Street's on at 7:30. He must finish then. But yeah, Bruno. I mean, we've seen collectively about 13 minutes of him, Holly. 2 minutes in the first game, 10 minutes yesterday. The crowd going mad for him. When is it right, and when is the right time to unleash Bruno?
Bruno, we haven't seen much of him. I think the 5 minutes he played against Everton was outstanding. Every time he had the ball, he did something great with it. Again, didn't really get into that game on Sunday, very well. But he didn't need to. And, I think the squad overall wasn't the greatest on that particular day. But yeah, look, he's an exciting player to come into the side. I can understand why Eddie Howe doesn't want to rush him in. And you've got to remember as well, especially in the Everton game, I think the midfield overall were excellent. So it was unfair to drop anyone. He won't want to upset players by doing that. So I'd say probably I think what Eddie Howe will do is just give him more game time gradually, like maybe give him the full second half at the West Ham game and just ease him in that way. But I'd say probably until one of the midfield players are particularly struggling for a period of time, then Bruno will start the games.
Yeah, Brian, I don't think he'll play him at right back. I really don't. I think there's other options there. Tony, your take on Bruno? When would you unleash him? Would you do what Holly says and give him a second half next week, or do you think there might be a surprise one day he'll just start him?
Yeah, I mean, give him the second half. I mean, I think what Eddie Howe's doing is he's just gradually getting him into the league, because obviously it's a different pace of league compared to what he's been playing in France. So, maybe he's just thinking, well, I'll give him 5 minutes here and then a 10-minute there, and then just build it up. Just get him used to the pace of the league, and but yeah, I mean, if say for instance somebody came off at half time and he come on for the second half, then yeah, 45 minutes isn't a bad run out for him to see what he can do. And the thing is, with West Ham on Saturday, one, it's my birthday on Saturday, and two, so we better win. But I can see us beating West Ham, to be honest, Steve, because I watched them yesterday, and then they've not been playing that great lately. So they got a lucky goal yesterday off the shoulder, which I was surprised stood, to be fair. But yeah, I think we can do West Ham on Saturday, and then Norwich have obviously got Liverpool away. So if we beat West Ham, we're 7 points ahead of Norwich. Happy days.
Yeah.
And if Burnley lose, we're 10 points ahead of Burnley. And that would mean Burnley would need to win 4 games, and I can't see Burnley winning 4 games.
I think Burnley are busted, mate. As much as I don't like it, I like Sean Dyche, but I think Burnley are busted. I think they've diced with it for however long, and I think they're busted this year, pal.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I knew owners come in and put debt into the club, didn't they? So that's why they ain't got the money.
No, I think they're busted.
Yeah, me too. I think the bottom 3 is the bottom 3 now. I can't see it changing. I don't think there'll be another twist and turn. I think Watford are going to suffer from sacking managers, which is ridiculous. Constantly sacking managers, and trying and replacing managers during the season. Sometimes twice a season. It's crazy.
There will be a point in Mourinho next.
Yeah.
Mourinho.
What about Bruno?
Go down yet, Steve? Though.
What's that? Sorry.
Brentford may go down. I mean, they're not flying, are they? They're on the downward spiral now. So
Yeah, and I mean that's a big game. I mean, we could be bypassing Brentford. I mean, who would have thought that? When we go down and play them in a couple of weeks' time, we could actually we could be going past them. And Tom Dixon says we're capable of beating anyone at the moment. We are on great form.
Like Gary Neville said yesterday on commentary, he said I've been here for a long time to commentate. He says, but Newcastle are a different animal now. He says, and they will stay up 100%.
Good praise coming from him.
I agree with Blue Moon Boy there. He says, hats off to Burnley for sticking with Dyche this season, in my opinion. And Jeff, proving that he still has that mystical magic within him. I said someone with a B in their name would go down, he says. Thanks, Jeff. Fantastic, mate. I must have missed that episode.
Do you ever think Sean Dyche, where will Sean Dyche go next? Will he ever get that chance?
I think somebody will take a gamble with him, because he's done well. He does well on a budget. He does well under pressure and stress. And he's he's only going to set that job that's in the same scenario, isn't he? He's only ever going to get a team that's struggling. I think he's typecast himself, hasn't he? He's the kind of person who hasn't got any controversy around him. He could be a good outside bet for England at some point. Yeah, after Gareth Southgate. You never know. He's not a Cloughie, is he? He's not somebody who wouldn't get the job. And he's done well. He has done well. He's done well on a limited budget there. So who knows? Sunderland will take Dyche, says Andrew. They'll take anybody, Sunderland. Finish up with you, Leon. Bruno. Would you like to see him unleashed at West Ham at the weekend?
It's a tough one, mate, isn't it? Because we've got that momentum behind us now. I reckon when Bruno come in, all the other players we've got, they've all got experience. So I reckon Eddie probably said, listen, I'm probably going to chuck you in at the deep end. I think with Bruno, when he signed him, I think he might have said, look, mate, with you coming from another league, you will be a figure point next year, but I'm not going to rush you into it. So I don't expect to see him thrust into it, mate, if I'm honest. I think he might get 10, 15, 20 minutes. But I think Eddie's already managed that when he signed him.
Yeah, no, I think so. Eddie Howe is somebody who does the job properly and does it well, and I'm pleased he's our manager. Tony, any final comments from you before we finish?
Just want to say I'm really happy with the January window. I think we've done brilliant business. We outspent everybody else, and I think now the bottom three are looking at us and thinking they ain't going to catch us now because they know the money we've got behind us. And I'm glad we were sensible with it as well. I know we wanted Carlos, but I think Burns is good as Carlos, if I'm honest. And the thing is, I don't think we'll go back for him in the summer now. I think if we still, we'll definitely go for bottoming. No, that's for sure. And I think in the summer, these owners will do the business early so we can get the players in and then start them ready for pre-season training in July, because there's no World Cup in June because it's not until November.
Yeah, it's a good
what
show.
What we all going to do for the World Cup? Are we all going to? What we're going to do? Have like a winter party?
Well, we'll have to, mate. We'll have to, yeah. Although I'm all partied out at the minute, mate.
Well, listen, mate. I can imagine. But so, what if we get down on the sunbeds in December? Does that mean we're World Cup ready?
Yeah. Lee, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm waiting for some kind of royalist crack as well. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to call an end to it. Tony, thank you very much for coming on, mate.
No problem, Steve. Thank you, mate.
Take care, mate. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everybody who's joined us. Lee, we will be back this week talking not gibberish, I hope, talking a little bit more sensibly. Thank you for coming on, mate. Great to see the internet is sorted. I will make sure Patricia knows, or I'm sure you will. Take care, mate.
All right, mate. See you in a bit. See you later, Hall.
Bye.
Great to have Lee on. Top class. If you haven't watched the podcast that I had Lee on with about his life story, please watch it. Unbelievable. Lee Davies. It's well worth a watch. It's in the true crime section. When you watch it, you'll realise why. But he's a hell of a character, and of course, he does do news of the world with us this week as well. Holly, let's get your prediction then for West Ham. We will be getting the early train down to the Hammers. What is your thoughts about next week's game?
Next week's game, I think Newcastle are going to win. I think they're going to win 2-0. Keep a clean sheet, solid at the back, big Dan Burn. And I think we'll get two goals, yeah. And I think, honestly, we'll comprehensively beat West Ham. And I know they're fourth in the league and they're doing well, but we always have a good track record down at the London Stadium, and I just fancy with chances.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's great to have you on, Holly. Thank you for stepping in. Get well soon to Chris as well. I'm sure you want to say the same as well, Holly.
Yeah, definitely. Get well soon, Chris. You've been a miss on the show, and just hoping you're feeling better soon.
And I hope Pete is dancing around to a bit of Barry White with a red rose in his mouth. And I hope he's having the time of his life.
Hopefully not dancing like you.
Exactly. No, dad dancing. There's no call for that. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll play out with the ads. Thanks to all the callers. Big shout out to everybody who joined us tonight online. Thanks to everybody in the chat, all the mods. And we'll play out with the ads. Take care. See you tomorrow morning with Liam Kennedy at 10:30 till 11:30. Thanks to all our sponsors. First up, Spider VPN. For all your internet security, Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. They come up at the top of the Google network search. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go. Waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245. And to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors. You can Google them and they come up at the top of the search list also. You can also find them on Heaton Road, and they are currently hiring and looking for fitters. So contact Arcot Interiors if you are available to help them with that particular trade. qtechshop.co.uk are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website. Jab Signature, You can find them at jabsignature.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all of our video editing. And thank you to newworkwear.com, the specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, for providing me with my new jacket. And if you want to subscribe to the show, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week and we do some true crime stuff as well. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you put your phone over this QR code, it will take you straight to our website and you become a Newcastle and UFC Matters member. You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf, and entered into our monthly draw where you can win some fantastic prizes. We also do live events, and each pre-match and post-match you can find us at the Dog and Parrot, and Super Mac gives us a talk about the game ahead. There is good beer, and there is good music, and there is a pool table, and kids are welcome. So get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot each match day in Newcastle City Centre. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can find the matchday bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year, and you can make a virtual deposit. If you want to find us on Facebook, then just search NUFC Matters. We have a page and a group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, search Steve Wraith. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, search @Steve Wraith.